Bruh. Afraid of the Mark, and today we have Matt Bullen. Matt, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man.
So I'm just going to jump right to it. WrestleCentre has taken off in the Maritimes, and what's it like being a part of a company that's on as much of a hot streak as it is as WrestleCentre is?
Oh, it's been great, man. Great publicity. Um, a bunch of great guys to work with, man. I couldn't be happier being a part of WrestleCentre. So, just I just feel like it's come a long way in the last couple of years, and it's still going to keep going and going.
So how much of a difference is it going to make now that you guys are affiliated or airing on the Fight Network?
Well, it's going to make a difference. It's going to be a broader audience. People that didn't know the product existed before will know now. It's good. It's going to be great for the guys and everybody in the roster that's involved. It's going to be more exposure. Hopefully that turns into more bookings and turns into more money.
Now, I'm very active seeing what's going on in the Maritimes, and you're not really on many other programs. WrestleCentre seems to be your mainstay. Is there a reason for that, or?
Yeah, I was working for Chuck, and that's how I met Tyler and Jason from WrestleCentre, and I was putting a good opportunity, with them, and they put a lot of faith into me, and it just turned into, that it's just been one of those things where, I get paid X amount by them to do what I do, and in return, there's a lot of people that say that, they'd say not to do this, not to do that, and the only thing that that they asked me not to do is just, not to go on any other wrestling promotions that have television. As far as that goes, I can book out anywhere that I want to. Obviously, when you're, working for WrestleCentre, there's probably certain places, you don't want to book it go to, just lower quality shows and stuff. And that plays a lot of part too. Is I'm not a mark, and I'm not in this business to win championships. I'm in this business to make money, and I'm not going to book myself out on a whatever show for $50. It's just, that's not going to happen. So, and I'd rather just sit at home and do nothing all day than go and work for $50. And no disrespect to the guys that do or whatever. That's their prerogative. That's just not my thing, and that's just my feeling on that, to be honest. So,
where do you foresee your character in WrestleCentre going? Because you're pretty much you're coming to the top there. Like, there are some teasers that you're gonna be going for like the championship and stuff like that. So do you feel like your character's on the up and up, or?
I don't know, man. There's been no formula. It just, I'm not, my character reflects a lot of like my way I am in my real, like, I guess my personal life, other than wearing a security shirt. I'm not an overly nice guy. I very blunt. I call it like I see it. And I don't got time for people's bullshit. And and then what you see in WrestleCentre, I feel it's just me jacked up, and I feel like I've organically gotten over. I don't feel like I was probably one of the guys that they were trying to get over, pushing to get over. You know what I mean? I think I was just put in a position with heel faction that fit. I'm sure there's internal workings on why that happened, and then that was just kind of my stage, and then I just started organically getting over because people just naturally think I'm a dickhead,
Yeah,
So, as far as it goes for answering your question, I'm not sure, man. I just show up and I beat people up and do what I do. So,
because to speak to how you are, your character. My first time I met you, I don't know if you remember this, but I was helping out with a WrestleCentre show in Halifax, and I was talking to Jason, and you came through the curtain, and you're like, "Get the fuck away, you mark!" And and I was like, "I'm helping." You're like, "Oh, sorry, man. I'm Josh."
well, I don't know. Business has changed a lot over the years. You hear these guys, like you hear Leo Burke talk about how the business was, and and then, guys like Peter Smith and those guys, and then, you kind of see what the business is nowadays. And, I, I do love pro wrestling, and I am protective of, who's around and who hears what. And I still don't believe that exposing the business is, a good thing, even though it is already exposed, but
Yes.
that's just my take on it, whereas other people, they don't give a shit anymore, and that's their take on it.
Which I love
So
to
that's
see.
arc. So
I love to see the fact that the business is being protected still with social media playing such a huge factor. There's still guys that care about the integrity of the show, the business.
yeah, sure, man. It's still a business. There's still money to be made. The problem is you let all these training facilities go on, and then guys that just have money, and wanted to do it because they watched it as a kid, and it just boils down to whether you're what are you in this for? Are you in it to make some money? Or are you in it to win a bunch of replica belts?
Yeah,
And
I completely
that's
agree.
what sometimes I find.
So you were talking about how once again your character is a figment of who you are, and it's just you jacked up. And I've heard some comments that you've made about JP Sims. Do you care to comment on your feelings towards JP Sims?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't need to keep harping on that. I just said what I said because it was the truth, and like I'll reiterate again. Me and JP had a match a while back for the IFWA title. I think it was like June of 2015, and he was on his way out of WrestleCentre, and they wanted me to go over on him, clean him, take the belt from him, and and then he just started like playing the political game, and said he wasn't going to show up, or he didn't feel that I was worthy of him lying on the mat because Lord forbid he wrestled AJ Styles, and now all of a sudden he feels like he's too good to be putting over the local guys, right? And then it's just and then it was just, and then I got heated because when that whole deal with him and Steve went down, and they both went public on a lot of issues that maybe should have been kept behind closed doors, and it was just like I really felt like in certain aspects Steve got slammed for that, and and I just wanted to make it aware that JP's not an angel by any stretch. He's just, he plays the game, and he's one of the better. He's probably the best guy at playing the game. He's got the strap. They keep pushing him to the moon, even though the fans hate his guts. Because he's not.
Yeah.
They keep pushing him like like they want him to get over. But again, that's just JP playing the game, and that's just what JP does. And then that's all I was alluding to in that interview was just, it wasn't Steve flying off the handle being a conceited dickhead saying, hey, I'm too good to put JP over. It was just, JP playing his game, and who eats the shit end of the stick at the end of the day. And and I think Steve just said, the hell with it. I'm just going to go and expose him for what he is. So that was just my take on it. But I
And
don't want to sit there and completely, harp on him. He's not a bad wrestler. I think he's a really good wrestler. You get in there and you wrestle AJ Styles and have a really good match. I mean, there's no way that you could discredit that he's not a good wrestler or a good performer, but his attitude sucks. And in turn, it makes him a difficult guy to work with.
and just one more question on that topic, because the only reason I brought up is you aren't the first person to bring all these situations with JP Sims to light, but you're the first person to like openly say how you feel about the situation. Um, how much of an impact does it make when somebody that you're trying to work with doesn't want to work with you in the match?
Um, I don't know, man. It just brings the quality of the match down, you know. And in order to have a good match, you got to have, you know, you got to be wanting to go in there and do business, and whether you like the promoter's call at the end of the day, whether you like the finish, or whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, when you show up to wrestle on a card and you take the money, you're an independent contractor that's for hire. You're a wrestler for hire. You do what the promoter tells you to do. And you go out there and you have a good match, and it's and you leave. the egos at the door because it's for the fans at that point. You know, the fans paid their hard-earned money, especially Nova Scotia wrestling fans. And I'm not saying this to get a pop or build a fan base because I could care less who likes me and who doesn't. But like man, Nova Scotia people work hard for the money. You know, so when they're spending it on $25 tickets or whatever the WrestleCentre tickets go for, they want to see certain quality matches. So you leave the bullshit at the curtain and you go out there and you deliver and you put everything you can as a performer into giving them what they paid for. And when egos start getting involved, then that's not always the case, and it's the fans that really lose out. And that's what you don't want. You don't want the fans going, oh man, that was a piece of shit. I could have went and bought beer for that money or something. And so it just really affects the match quality, and you can see that. I mean, there's real matches that are really good, like Julian Young, for instance. I can't praise Julian enough, but tell me a bad Julian Young match you've seen. You
Yeah.
can't, because he leaves the bullshit at the curtain. Julian might not like you. He might think that maybe you're not cut out for the business, but at the end of the day, if the promoter goes up to Julian and says, put this guy over and make him look good while you do it, that's what Julian's going to do, because Julian understands it's a job, right? You know, so the guys that can leave the crap at the curtain are the guys that generally get over good with the fans, because they're not going out there and with their egos. They're going out there wanting to please a fan and put on the best performance they can.
So, with that being said, going forward now, who's your favorite person that you've worked with? Maybe not in WrestleCenter, wherever, that you feel the best match. Like, who's the person you like working with the most?
um Not sure, man. I mean, I like, I pretty much like all my matches. There's certain things that I like about all of them. In terms of performers, working with anything to do with like Shane Stevens and Titus and Julian, always a walk in the park, because those guys are just utmost professionals and do what they're supposed to do. So I've had some matches with Julian. Riddick Stone's another one that matches I like working with him. He's a cool guy, and he's big and strong, man. So it always makes up for some good stuff with him. But yeah, just guys like that just really just want to go out there and entertain and put on good matches.
Is there anybody outside the maritime scene, like in the independent scene right now, that you'd like a chance to work with? There's...
No. Just, I don't know, man. I just book out and work whoever they want me to work. I don't have a list of guys that I go, okay, well, I want to work these guys, or I just want to get better as a performer, because I always feel like the longer you're in this, the better you're going to get. Work as many shows as I can, learn as much as I can, and hopefully that turns out to be in good payoffs for working those types of guys. But I don't have a list of guys. Like, I don't care if I ever work Gunner from TNA or whoever. It doesn't make a difference to me. As making the same money working Brett that I would be working Gunner, well, I'd probably pick Brett because it'd be easier. So
So, have you noticed any of the spotlight on you getting any bigger now that WrestleCenter is on Fight Network?
no, not really, man. I don't. I didn't. It's weird, man. I don't really like this. Doesn't go to my head. I don't sit there watch myself on television. I mean, I watch my matches to like critique them. If there's things I see and I go, oh shit, that looked cool, right? Then maybe that's something I can use down the road. Or oh, that looked like garbage. I'm not going to do that again. But I don't sit there and go, oh, I'm the shit, and because I wrestle. So I don't know. I mean, that seems to be the perception, but I don't know. I just roll with the punches, man, and I'll do whatever I'm asked to do by the promoters that I work for. And if that's, getting in there and beating the shit out of JP or anybody else, and that's perfect. Doesn't make a difference to me.
Has there ever been somebody that you just sat back? I know you said Julian Young. Is there another guy that you feel like you could sit back and you could just feel like they're like not flawless, but they can do no wrong, everything looks good?
Yeah, Titus, man. I had when I didn't know that I was going in heel faction until it happened that night. Like we literally found out me and I'm not sure what Titus knew. You'd have to ask him, but no word of a lie, I literally found out 30 seconds before everything went down. And it was cool because I was like, man, so Titus and Christopher Daniels. So that was a lot of brains to pick, and and I learned a lot from those two guys. And in my opinion, I think Titus is the best wrestler in the Maritimes, hands down. It was definitely Burke or Titus, and like just being able to learn from him and what I've learned from him and learn from Christopher Daniels as well. I mean, that knowledge that's going to help me in my career, right? And it already has to a huge degree.
I've noticed your character. You're getting a lot more time to develop your character in the ring. Like you're getting more mic time. You're getting more. I remember last year there was a spot where before Jordan Camo left WrestleCentre, you had a big thing with him going on, and you were getting a lot of time to form your character, and it was great seeing the Matt Bullen character not just be the security, the bodyguard anymore, but you got to know the character. How was that transition period of becoming the character Matt Bullen instead of just the brawler Matt Bullen?
Um, it just it comes with more responsibility, right? When when I got put into heel faction, I remember going through that locker room or sorry, going back into the dressing room, and there was a lot of confusion on people's faces. Like they didn't understand that that situation at all because there was so many other guys that could have been put into that situation. And to be quite frank with you, I didn't understand it either, right? Like I thought like oh shit, they're gonna kick me out. Like I'm gonna be like the guy that they beat the crap out of and make an example of, right? So I just again, I just went with what the Tyler and Jason and them all had written, and and I just waited for my opportunity, and again, it's not something that I prepared for. It wasn't like they're like, hey man, we're giving you a bigger spot, so get your shit together. It was just like, well, I know what this character is because this character is just me with the volume turned up a bit, So in terms of evolution, there really wasn't any because the way I'm talking to you now is the way I talk on the microphone is the way I talk on television, right? And so it was just one of those things where, I just, I was given opportunities to deliver and I delivered on those opportunities. And it just becomes that faith that the promoter has in you that, okay, when we use this guy or utilize this guy in this role, he's going to be able to deliver, right? But I don't think it was, again, it was just something organic because it wasn't anything that I had to practice. It was just, getting that television time or getting that extra ring time to be able to evolve. And when I did, it was like really natural because it was just, it was just me with the volume turned up, right?
What I've noticed with you is you started out over as a heel, but now you're starting to become in that tweener category, like using mainstream wrestling. CM Punk was, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. You're more of that. You're not. They're not booing you anymore as a heel.
Right. Yeah, I don't know why that is. I honestly don't. That's nothing that was in the plans or the works. I think it's just like they see my character for what it is, and the people that get to meet me at those shows or know what I'm like you said, when I called you Mark backstage, man, that's just the type of guy I am. So I think you got to kind of respect the fact that people do look at me and go, okay, well this guy's a prick, but he's a prick that could kick the shit out of me. So I'm going to be on, I like this guy now, right? And it's just getting to that, as like you said, you just get that more exposure to that audience, then organically they just start realizing, oh shit, this guy is the real deal. Because I was, I am a real deal, like I was a bouncer. I worked in strip joints in Montreal and, did all that crazy crap, and, there's probably not too many people that could step to me that, I wouldn't be able to kick the crap out of, and I think that they respect that. And it also boils down to the fact that, when I go through the curtain, I might not be jacked up and, 280 of solid muscle, but when I go through that curtain, there's some realism there. People go, oh man, I'm probably not going to be able, if I met that guy in the streets, I probably wouldn't want to fuck with him, and, and again, that's just things like that, just naturally, organically, just helps you get over, right? But I don't care whether the fans cheer, whether the fans boo, what the fans do. I just go out there, kick the crap out of people, get my money, and go home. You like me, great. If you don't, well, that's fine too.
Me being, well, a mark, I'm a fan. Everyone who goes to a show is a fan of some sort. So when I went to the show and I saw you getting cheered, my immediate thought was, okay, they're going to build up after Shane and JP have their thing. You could go against JP because JP gets the boos, you get the cheers. You're both heels, but the fans have dictated that they like you, so it's an easy combination. So is that something you'd like to have happen?
Um, Not particularly, you know. I'm gonna get over regardless if I'm first match, third match, main event. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna get over regardless because that's my mentality, right? I'm gonna get over. You give me 4 minutes of ring time or 4 minutes of segment time. I'm gonna knock your dick into the dirt with what I can do, right? And that's just the way that I always look at it. And so I'm going to get over whether I wrestle, Justin or Brett in the first match, just as much as I'm going to get over if I wrestle JP in the main event. Just there's a lot less bullshit wrestling Brett and Justin, But again, if they, would I get in there and work JP? Yeah, I would. But a lot of things have changed, and as far as I'm concerned, JP ain't the top guy. You know what I mean? He's just being pushed as the top guy. And if JP wants to do business, well, then business is going to be done. But it's not going to be done JP's way with all the bullshit that comes along with it. Because I feel like I'm in a position in my career right now where I can just say, no, fuck you guys. I'm not doing it.
Well,
And that's legit. That's the truth. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to working them or doing something down the road with them. But if it turns into being a headache, then why bother?
and there is a lot more options. Like the wrestling scene in Nova Scotia isn't a one trick pony. There's not just one stop. So I mean, if that's the way it's gonna happen, there is the wrestling scene in Nova Scotia and the Maritimes is growing.
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. And you know, a lot of guys, come in and go and stuff like that, and that's just not the way that I do business. I feel like I'm a loyal guy. I stick. I'm not with WrestleCenter because they push me. I've been WrestleCenter for 2 years. When I was barely getting any time. You know, but just again, they're the ones that took the faith on, that leap of faith with me. So in terms of other promotions and stuff, it's just it boils down to I just don't I like working for WrestleCenter, and if that's as long as that's an option on the table, that's great. And if that down the road that's not an option on the table, then it's time to maybe look at other options. But at this point in my career, with what I've done and and all that stuff and everything, I feel like I'm not in a position where I have to do anything I don't want to do. That's just what it boils down to.
We've seen you in every kind of situation. We saw you in this past show with a manager in the I forget her name when she came down, but you had a manager. We've seen you in a tag match with I'm drawing a blank here, Jackson Fury. We've also seen you singles. Do you like working tags or with a valet, or do you prefer just you going in there and doing what you do?
Yeah, that's it, man. That's what I prefer. I like tags and stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, because it's different. It's not. But yeah, I mean, I like going in there. I like working the style that I do. If you see me work, I'm not a backflipper. I don't do twists. I just go in there and beat the crap out of people, and that's what I prefer to do, is just that, my own. As far as this, getting placed with the manager, it's going to be better than Jackson Fury, so that's a plus anyways. So at least, better on the eyes anyways.
And with Jackson Fury, it more looked like you were his bodyguard because you're the bigger guy. He's the
No, he's
shorter.
more my lackey. He carried my bags for me pretty much, rode my coattails through heel faction, pretty much. He was the Buff Bagwell of heel faction. Let's just put it that way.
Well put. Is there anything? Is there anything that you'd have coming up other than WrestleCenter you'd like to plug, or your next WrestleCenter show? Is there anything you'd like to plug at the end of this?
No, man. I mean, I don't even know like who I'm working at the next WrestleCenter shows, to be honest. And I don't really care. I'll just go up there and beat up whoever they put in the ring
Could be
against me. But
could be
no,
Too
man,
Cool
just
Scorpio.
yeah, I got Twitter, I got Facebook. If you want to check some of my stuff out, hit those up, and I'm sure you can do something there where you can post that for me.
Oh, of course I can. So once
Sure.
again, thank you for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, man. Anytime. I appreciate it.
All right, have a good one. This has
Yeah.
been Matt Bullen joining us for our latest edition of Are You Afraid of the Mark?